I wanted to give a bit of a background about myself, and because I get asked, well, how do I get into this? How did I get into boxing and what is now a cardio kickboxing gym? And I always tell the same story, and it goes back to about 2007 when I was working as a personal. I've just been certified, my diploma in personal training, and I was working at the most prestigious gym in the country in Johannesburg called Melrose Arch. It was very, very fancy, and the people were awesome. Absolutely loved it, and the trainers had such a good vibe. And it was a limited gym membership, and there were 5,000 members, and there were 36 personal trainers, and we were all busy. It was great. It was such a good vibe, yeah, especially between the trainers. Anyway, so I went to watch. So this is how. Okay, this is how I got into it. We went to watch one of my colleagues, a guy called Clint, who had his first professional boxing match, and it was at Emperor's Palace. And we were like, I'd never been to watch a boxing match, so we all liked Clint. He was one of the cool guys, you know. So me and some of my clients and some of his clients and some of my friends, we all got together, bought tickets all next to each other, and we went and watched his boxing match. And he was coming from Muay Thai, and I remember his stance when he was in the ring was like, I think, yeah, Muay Thai, very Muay Thai. Like, he couldn't help going to that, and I think he kept trying to correct himself. But anyway, bottom line is, I was so impressed, not with his fight, which was great. He won very easily, but he was very not matched. The guy he was fighting against was pretty useless, actually, and Clint could have actually fought someone much better. But I think it was because it was his first fight. They didn't, in introduction, so they put someone who he finished up quickly. I remember his friends were sitting behind us, and they were shouting, Clint, punch him in the tits, because he was a big guy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is too much. Anyway, I digress. So we went to watch him, and I was blown away, and I was like, wow, I really feel like I can, there's something about this, I want to get involved. And I was like thinking like, man, I think I want to be a fighter. So yeah, I wanted to be a fighter, and it was actually it was silly of me. If I think back, I mean, I was already like 34, 35, like you don't go into boxing at that age. You don't, you can't. No one's going to give you time of day, unless you're Floyd Mayweather in disguise, you know what I'm saying? Like, anyway, so I went to, the next day I went to Nick Durant's gym, and it was like, for me, I think it was the first of its kind in South Africa, where it was personal training, and it was, all the trainers were professional fighters currently fighting, and with him, and he's the trainer and the manager, and he had two gyms. He had one in somewhere in Johannesburg, where the pros would go train, and then they would come to Norwood, and this is where I was training, and I was training with Cassius Baloyi. So Cassius Baloyi, he became my, like, he taught me everything I know about boxing, like, really, he did. And he's a former 6-time world champion, the only South African to have won six world titles, I think, in 3 different weight divisions. So yeah, 2 in each division. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, so Cassius is a former 6-time world champion, and he was my trainer, and I was training with him 3 times a week, and then on my own I was still working as a personal trainer, and then also doing my strength training and my running and everything. So I had a very, very, very full week. There was no time for messing around, but I was also like in the best shape of my life. And Cassius looked at me one day and he was like, tell me something, how do you, I see you've lost weight, but you haven't lost your muscle. And I was like, oh, well, you know, coming from my personal training background, I was very happy to explain that there's a lot of things you can do for that, and one of the main things is you've got to make sure you're eating enough protein, and then you can be doing strength training. And he was like, oh, but I did strength training once, and apparently he was lifting heavy weights, and it slowed him down, and he almost lost his fight, or he lost the fight, or he almost lost the fight. And from that day on, they didn't want him to do weights again. But I said to him, yeah, but you don't do weights like you're training as a bodybuilder. You have to do sport-specific weight training. Okay, so sports conditioning. So it is more, if I had to put it in a nutshell, there's two aspects of it, I would say. One thing is that it's got to be sport-specific, so for the action that he's going to be doing. So for instance, boxing, you know, he's throwing punches, he's moving around and stuff like that. So it's pretty much all body, if you ask me. Whereas, like, if you're a golfer, you've got to work on your golf swing, and you need to have, you know, so I think you understand. It's like sport-specific. But, so I said to him, come to my gym where I work, and I'll show you. And he was like, oh yeah, great, thanks, that'll be awesome. So I was like, wow, awesome. At this time he was only a 5-time world champion. And I was like, wow, this is fantastic. I'm going to train a 5-time world champion. And I really looked up to him already. The respect was huge, because this guy, I could see the physicality of what it took to do what he was doing. And when I was learning to box myself, I mean, the awakening is just incredible. You just start to understand really what these people, these athletes that are professional fighters, what they go through to get to being able to fight at that level. It's insane. And I was captivated. And so the fact that I was going to train him made me very, I don't know, gave me inspiration, big time, like wow. And I really wanted to be involved more in boxing. And so I spoke to Nick Durant, because I kind of thought I should mention it to him. I don't think, you know, Nick can be quite a grumpy guy, and like, you don't want to piss him off. So I was like, hey Nick, is it okay if I train Cassius at my gym? And he was like, no, actually that's fine. And then as things went on, he actually said to me, you can also work with Osborne Machimana. So I also ended up being his conditioning coach as well. So Cass came over, and we did this one session. And for instance, the first session, we grabbed TheraBands, and you know, you just put it behind your back and put it here, and you can box. So you've got resistance. And this was very funny. Because I had him, went upstairs, we went to the top floor, and I was like, okay, so I put the TheraBand behind him on tied to like a bar from the bottom where the boxing bags were, because we had a little boxing bag there, and tied it, and he got into his boxing stance, and I said, okay, off you go. And the thing is, Cassius was very shy, and I was a bit shy as well in approaching him and how to deal with him, because all we'd spoken about before was really boxing, and now it's like, you know, so it was like, for me, it was like, oh my gosh, I was a bit excited. And so I'm watching him, and he's standing there, guys, he's standing there, and he's boxing, and he's like, and he's going, and I'm like, wow, this guy's incredible. Like, this guy's crazy. I mean, look at him. Look at his muscles. Like, wow. You know, muscles, amazing. And then I thought, geez, okay, well, I need to go to the bathroom. So I said to him, I'll be right back. I'm just going to the toilet. And off I go. And I come back, and he's still going. But like, guys, it's like sweat's dripping down, yeah? And he's still going. And then I said to him, isn't your back sore? Like, because you've been going for 45 minutes. And he's like, yes. So I said, oh, it's sore. He goes, yeah. So I went, so stop. And he immediately drops the bands and walks away. He was waiting for me the whole time to tell him to stop. And I thought he was just showing us how fucking amazing he is. So I was like, oh shit, I realized. And anyway, I just didn't say anything about it. I was like, okay, well, let's go do stretching now. And we did that. And then he went back to the gym and told the other guys, the fighters, he said, oh my God, this chick is another level. But he loved it. He was like, oh my God. And that's how I became Cassius's conditioning coach. And then he trained with me for quite a few fights, actually. The next one, in fact, the very next fight that he had was when he won his 6th world title. And I was there, and it was unbelievable. He fought Mzonke Fana, and wow, it was such an experience. I think I was in tears the whole time. It was just so emotional and so intense, and I was hooked, guys, and that's it. So like, that's how I got into it. And then Cassius and I continued to work together. I had to stop training with him though, because of another reason, and he left Nick Durant, and anyway, so I wasn't really boxing with him anymore, but I was still training him. And then he opened a gym in Bruma and asked me to manage it. And then the two of us after that opened the gym in Sandton, and we started training professionals and amateur boxers, and Cassius is still there training and doing personal training and training some fighters as well. And now my chapter is that I'm here in Greece, and I want to step away from the competition side and focus more on fitness. I do still like to go watch fights though, but I don't want to be involved with the whole scene. I just want to be here on my own, doing my thing, training people for health and getting them fit and helping them mentally and physically. Boom.